but there's some trauma there because we put her in. Okay, so this is where Ross comes into play. We're going back to Ross. He does not like the spotlight. So
say his name two more times.
Yeah, this just makes me like laugh. Ross Walters. So this is so funny. Yeah, I know, it's so weird. Lafayette's very connected. Yeah. You know.
I'd always say, like, you know, what intricate webs we weave. You ask the right person. Well, hell, it doesn't even matter if it's the right person. You just ask a person the right 7 questions, and you figure out
you're related.
pretty much.
Yeah. Like if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would that be? Like, I would tell her, like, just hold on, because it's a wild ride. Like, and you're not going to be the same person in 10 years. I can promise you.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Nest Podcast, where we discuss health, wealth, real estate, and life. Today's guest is Erin Roussel, mom, realtor, and Miss Louisiana USA 2012. Erin, yes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
So talk to me about this Miss Louisiana stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty fancy.
Yeah, I guess. It's, you know, something I'm obviously very proud of, but it seems like a distant memory. Honestly, it's been 12 years. In fact, 2 days ago was like our 12-year anniversary of competing at Miss USA. So
no way.
It seems like it was literally yesterday. But
half a life ago.
Yeah,
kind of at
like,
the same
you know,
time.
I guess when you have kids and like, what's the saying? Like the days are long, but the years are short. Or,
yes.
I think that's like, and it rings really true. So I feel like in one breath, it seems like yesterday, and then like so much life has happened since then that like it also seems like I'm 80 years old. So, you know, no.
Also, well, you're the best looking 80-year-old that's ever been on this show. So
well, that's great. Mm-hmm.
So what's happened in between? That's a lot of life.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, I have 3 children. So I'm married to my husband, Butch. We got married 6 years ago. We just made our 6th year.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. May 26th. So yeah, I met him shortly after Miss USA. It's a funny story. I see like these questions that you have and it says, how did you meet your spouse, significant other? And this is a perfect segue to go into that. So because we're talking about pageants, so my like pageant coach, I guess you could call him, who's also my best friend, Ross Walters, if he listens to this, he's going to hate that I just name dropped him, but he doesn't like the spotlight. But he and Butch, my husband, were roommates. And so I would actually go to Butch's house and practice like in my evening gown and walk and practice like my Miss USA walk with Ross. Now, like, I know it's so weird how it all like, you know, happens, but he was dating somebody, I was dating somebody, like we were not in that like even zone.
Okay.
And then I competed at Miss USA and came back newly single, and he was newly single, and like we randomly met at Legends Bar one night on the 4th of July, and like the rest is history.
Which Legends?
Downtown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's like how we met through all this. Like, so it's funny.
So you, the two of you had never actually talked while you were runwaying?
Yes. Like we had hung out as friends, but like, obviously we were in other relationships that we were friends.
Sure.
But no, it was when we met at Legends, we were both freshly single and the opportunity was there.
Nice.
And I don't know. Yeah. So anyways, we started dating in 2012, shortly after I competed at Miss USA. And then that obviously led to children, marriage and children. So I have 3 kids, 5, 3, and 10 months. And also a real estate agent. So I'm
10 months.
Tired.
So you don't sleep a lot.
You know, he's actually a really great sleeper. I'm functioning.
Was he the best of the 3?
No.
No. Okay.
Juliet, my 3-year-old, was phenomenal sleeper from day one. Just slept. Levi sleeps, but he gets me up like once or twice a night to eat. So, but I go right back to bed. I'm okay.
Just to kind of counterbalance the Ross Walters guy getting mad.
Yeah.
Isn't that the guy that was your cheerleading coach?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
she
were a
was,
cheerleader?
She was a cheerleader.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Choreography. Mm-hmm. He still does all that.
I knew exactly who you were talking about
Yeah.
when you said what intricate webs we weave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in River Ranch. Yeah. Yeah, and he was there with someone who was competing like what you used to do.
Yeah, so I met Ross through my brother. My brother actually played, it's so weird, y'all. Like,
Drew?
yeah, my brother Drew played football for UL, and Butch, my husband, played football for UL, but I didn't meet Butch through Drew. I met him through Ross, but I knew Ross through Drew.
And my brother played soccer with your brother.
Yes.
Growing up.
Did my dad coach?
He didn't.
No. Okay.
My mom also briefly worked for your dad a long time ago.
Yeah.
In between stints at like extensive tenures at 2 different careers.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's so weird. Lafayette's very connected.
Yeah. I'd always say, like, what intricate webs we weave. You ask the right person. Well, hell, it doesn't even matter if it's the right person. You just ask a person the right 7 questions and you figure out.
You're related.
pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't even think I asked you one. I think you just told me one thing and then it all connected.
Mm-hmm. It's like, it's funny. It's, whenever you like meet somebody, whether it's like first time meeting them or maybe through a mutual friend and then end up playing like the name game, like I'm very famous for doing that. I guess I just find comfort in meeting people and finding out like how well connected we are. But my husband likes to make fun of me. He's like, "Oh, there you go again, playing the name game." But that's how you
find common ground and commonality.
Yeah,
and
sort of like builds a relationship. It seems like a more personal connection whenever you can.
Well, sure you can speak to this as a parent now, and our lives are so busy. So since we don't have so much, you're having to figure out, like, hey, I have a certain amount of time that I can allocate for other things.
Yeah, it's so hard.
You get on this like accelerated tract of like, do me and this person jive?
Yeah.
Is there enough commonality to where we could go hang out and it would be cool? Stuff like that. So
yeah,
but I do it all the time. And
it's not just that. It's like, because you have such limited time, because obviously like for me, I'm a working mom, but I'm also still in my postpartum and I'm trying to figure out like, okay, my kids need me, right? Like
sure.
These are such impressionable, important years. I can put the phone away. Like I find myself, I'll grab the phone and I'm just like scrolling and I'm like, why am I on MLS right now? Like my kids need me. They're like asking me for a cheese stick and I'm ignoring them, and I'm like, no house is more important than my kids. But every second counts during your day when so many people need you. And it's a balance trying to figure out, what's more important. And obviously being a mom is the most important. Yeah. But
I think we triage our days. I mean, any working professional, there's a lot of that, especially ours isn't always on a schedule necessarily.
Yeah.
But what's the medical term? Somebody goes in the ER, they triage, like who's bleeding out, who's got a kidney stone, who's got a sprained ankle, whose finger is dangling off their hand, right?
Yeah.
And
priorities.
You just gotta.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't do them.
Yeah.
But
it's tricky.
So you're probably still trying to find a groove. You said 5, 3, and 10 months.
Yeah. It's
and
summer.
You're like one in school.
Yeah. Well, so Mary Frances goes to Cathedral. Summer obviously is tough. And then Juliet is in Mother's Day out. So she's there every day. Well, summer, it's a little bit different. Levi will be starting Mother's Day out in the fall. So I feel like right whenever I have it figured out, it changes. And then it's like, like I recently hired a babysitter. And so there's that has relieved, some of the mom pressure so that I can go escape and go make calls, follow-up emails, write offers, whatever it is, show houses.
Take a nap.
No, I don't remember the last time I've taken a nap, and I used to be a nap girl. The other day, though, I got all 3 kids down for their nap, and I went outside and laid out by the pool. Nice. I'm like, this is a win.
Nice.
But
sounds like a rare occasion, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Very rare. Very rare. Mm-hmm.
Now, what about when the oldest was in school and you just had 2? You had better odds with that, or it was still?
Yeah, that was easier to manage because, Juliet was 2, almost 3. She was more independent. A newborn baby or a 10-month baby still needs mama a lot, So I get stretched, but that's okay.
So looking ahead 3 years, you have any more?
I'm usually quick to say absolutely not. And it gets controversial, right? Because it's like, I'm not in control of that. Obviously, I believe that God is the ultimate sayer of how many kids I'm going to have. But I also feel like I have maxed out on my patience and the capacity to handle all things in this current landscape.
Yeah, the season of life that you're in.
And I'd rather just kind of, chill out, enjoy my kids, raise my kids. I'm ready for them to, whatever they're going to do, whether that's dance, soccer, I'm ready to get into that. I played soccer, so travel ball,
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I played on Rage up until when we moved away. But big soccer family, and I really hope that Mary Frances wants to play soccer. And I feel like it's my pressure that I'm putting on her is backfiring on me, because she told me the other day, she was like, "Mom, I do not want to play soccer." And I was like, "Why, babe? Your mom played." She likes to do everything I do. She sees me, she wants to put on makeup with me. I'm her mom. And so I just for sure thought she would want to play soccer. And she was like, "I don't want to play sports." And I was like, what are we going to do then? And she was like, "Well, there's a winner and a loser with any game that you play. And I don't want to be a loser."
Damn, that's deep. I was thinking you were going to say she's told you that princesses don't play sports or something.
No. And I was like, okay, that shows that she's competitive.
Yeah.
So maybe she just hasn't figured that out yet, that she's super quick. Butch takes her around the block. They run. She loves to run. I think it's in the cards for her. I just need to be able to deliver it to her.
Got a harness.
Yeah. The right way without putting too much pressure on her.
She'll thrive a lot around other little girls. I think the big thing, you just put her on a soccer team and then she's going to see a bunch of people doing it, and it'll be her jam.
But there's some trauma there because we put her in just the LA SOAR, neighborhood league when she was 3, way too young. She was terrified of the whistle. My husband literally was carrying her on his hip while she's screaming, crying. The whistle's blowing, freaking out. It's right at nap time. All the kids are melting, and it's created trauma. I think that's where it stems from, honestly.
That's a perfect example of no matter how much you try to do for and protect your kids. Look what ended up happening.
I know.
At least you had the self-awareness to realize that could have been a thing.
I guess.
I coached Bryce when he was 4. We went undefeated. I was very proud of that. But we had an older 3-year-old on the team, and I'd physically, coaches are on the field at that age.
Yeah,
I would physically have to go pick him up and put him where he needed to go. Yeah. And then sometimes when he would fall, you could definitely tell he was 3.
Yeah, too young.
And for all I know, maybe I may have traumatized that kid. But we never lost, so he didn't have to feel that pain.
Yeah, that's good. We didn't even make it 10 minutes into the week. After the 3rd game, we were like, what are we doing to ourselves? And we just stopped showing up.
Yeah, she'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll get through that.
You can try it again and see. I heard you say move away.
Yeah.
Born and raised here.
Yes.
Moved somewhere.
Yeah.
Came back.
So born and raised Lafayette, public school, Prairie Elementary, Edgar Martin, briefly did an Ascension 3-month situation.
Trial period.
Yeah. Begged my mom to go back to public school.
Okay.
So ended up at Edgar Martin and then finished my 6th grade year. My dad's job transferred us to north of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah. A town called Owasso. And I did middle school, all of high school, and my first year of college at Oklahoma State. And then...
So 7th through 12th.
Mm-hmm. And then moved to Stillwater, Oklahoma. Went to OSU.
Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. Go Pokes. And yeah, I did that and then got extremely homesick. So I was basically the only one in our family member at that point who was still over there. My brother had already moved back home to Louisiana because he had gotten a scholarship for UL football.
Okay.
And then my parents, they actually had moved to Houston for my dad's job, transferred him to Houston, but they were closer to Lafayette, 3 hours away. So I moved back in 2008 to go to UL and finish. I finished in 2011.
So you did junior, senior year?
Sophomore, junior, senior.
Sophomore, junior, senior.
Yeah. And I've been...
And you're glad you came back?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is home. Obviously, we would come home on, for holidays and things like that. But yeah, there's no place like home. So,
Which was here.
Yeah.
And while you were at UL, I remember seeing you in the paper because I recognized your maiden name as Edmiston because of your brother.
Yeah.
Because I'd heard my brother
Yeah. They played ball.
and all that stuff.
Right.
You were on homecoming court at UL?
I was.
Okay. I remember seeing something in the paper.
Yeah. 2011 homecoming court. That was really fun.
What was the proximity of that to Miss Louisiana? And
That was 3 weeks apart.
no way.
Yeah, maybe 2 weeks apart. It was a very exciting, I look back in 2011, 2012, that was it. That was such a fun time in my life. You have the homecoming festivities, and then I was also preparing for Miss Louisiana. So I had actually won Miss UL. That was my first pageant, Miss UL,
Okay.
in 2010.
So that's different from homecoming court?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that.
So 2010. Okay. So this is where Ross comes into play. We're going back to Ross. He does not like the spotlight. So
Say his name two more times.
Yeah. This just makes me laugh. For Ross Walters. So this is so funny. So he had approached me maybe my freshman year of college, sophomore year, something like that. And he was like, hey, I see potential in you. I think you should do a pageant. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was actually at my brother's college graduation party. We were taking shots in the driveway. And he's like, you need to do a pageant. And I'm like.
And you were how old?
18. I had just moved back.
And you had never done anything like that before?
No.
Because it aren't. Well, you can speak to this. I'm asking but I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Most of the girls that you competed against, a lot of them, don't they start out really young?
Say a lot. Yeah.
Or at least 14?
Yeah.
12.
A lot of girls start out in the teen division.
Okay.
And then once they age out of that, then they move on to Miss. I'd say that's a large majority of people that, start out young.
So you were kind of a newcomer to the scene.
Yeah. And I was an old lady.
Outsider.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, considering
well, you are 80 now.
I'm 80. Yeah. Considering that these girls have been doing that for half their lifetime, So I told Ross, no way. I'm not, what is a pageant?
You didn't see yourself.
No, I played soccer. I ran track. I was a sorority girl, lived a very normal college life. Very not into the whole glam. That just wasn't something I was exposed to ever. So I always watched pageants, on TV when they would come on. I always watched it, but no, never did I see myself on that stage. Anyway, though, without saying too much, I called him up my junior year, literally 1 month before the Miss UL pageant. And I was like,
there's a couple years later.
A few years later. And I was like, hey, I am just feeling a little I want a goal. I want to accomplish something. My whole life, I am very motivated by accolades and accomplishments, awards, all those things. I'm missing that now. And so can I just try it? And he was like, yeah, meet me at Butch's house. So Butch and I actually met in 2010 when I was practicing for Miss UL. And so I did Miss UL. I think I practiced for like a month, and I was wearing these little kitten heels. I mean, I couldn't even walk in the heels that they all wore. And I won, and that paid for my way into Miss Louisiana the first year. So I competed twice at Miss Louisiana.
Okay.
The first year, I didn't have any like professional training. I just did it because it was required of me as Miss UL.
Gotcha.
And I placed in the top 10. And I had a blast.
For Miss Louisiana.
For Miss Louisiana.
Okay.
Miss Louisiana, USA. I had a blast. I was like, okay, this is so fun. The adrenaline rush. It's...
And you were probably surprised that you needed the professional training and coaching until you got there 100%. And you realized.
Oh, totally.
As a man, I would tell you like, oh, that's bananas. But I've, the boys do acting and stuff.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
The lady that helps us out a lot, her daughter was Miss Mississippi. And we got to see the behind the scenes stuff. And the shit's hardcore.
Oh, it is. I mean, think
you
about.
You can't just walk in
and
put some makeup on and do it.
No, I mean, there's like, well, you do walk on the stage like in a bathing suit. So like the whole physical fitness aspect of it is huge.
Sure.
But it's also way more than just what you see. Like there are interview training. I mean, your interview makes up for a large portion of your score. So you have to be able to like carry yourself and know who you are and be able to communicate that, to these judges in a very short period of time. So there's all this like necessary training, all while I'm training to come back to compete again. I also started like dipping into the modeling world. And that, I think that's not something that I really like ever planned to pursue. It just kind of came with it.
Sure.
But it prepared me for Miss Louisiana. It gave me the confidence boost that I needed. So like I actually, after my first year and competing at Miss Louisiana, making top 10, I entered into the Miss Lafayette pageant after that, because you can do these small preliminaries and they'll pay your way into the state pageant. So I did Miss Louisiana, and this is like a dose of like humble pie for me. Okay. Whenever I competed for Miss Lafayette, I wanted to be Miss Lafayette. Like I'm from Lafayette.
Sure. You just finished top 10 in Louisiana.
Yeah. I'm like feeling the energy, I'm going through the necessary prep, and I didn't win. I actually got like second runner up, and I cried. Ross pulled me off the stage and he was like, get it together. Like, come on, get it together. And I'm like so upset. But it was just the right fuel that I needed to get me back on that stage.
That's usually how it works. You don't realize it or appreciate it at the time.
At the time, no. But it's exactly what I needed.
We off camera, we talked about the distinction, or I heard you say it actually, Louisiana, USA. Mm-hmm. When you are because there's Miss America.
Correct.
And there's Miss USA. Correct. Is that the distinction?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Man brain. Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
You got it.
But
right.
I did it right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For any guys watching this or people who didn't follow all that.
Yeah.
Miss America, what is the difference? I felt like Miss USA is the one that led to Miss Universe.
Correct.
And Miss America, I felt like there was like a talent involved with it as well.
That's exactly right. So
is that right?
Miss America is, I'm impressed. Miss America is scholarship based. And there is a talent portion. So that's the biggest differentiator. The USA system at the time was owned by Donald Trump. Okay. And he would put the girls up that would win Miss USA, and they'd live in the Trump Towers in New York City for a year. Wow. Yeah. Say what you want to say about him. We won't go there. But so he was the owner of it, and he owned Miss Universe as well. So with Miss USA, that system, no talent, but that doesn't mean we don't have talents. Sure. A lot of smart women, sure. A lot of talented women compete in that system, but don't show their talent. So basically the three aspects of competition are interview, swimsuit, and evening gown. And then the top five, if you make it to top five, you do answer like your on-stage question, which is like the, nerve-wracking, usually political question that makes it to the headlines when you totally screw up. I'm sure you've seen like those clips before. I'm thinking
about the interview part. Was Mario Lopez involved with it when you were there?
So no, Allie Landry, that was whenever, Allie Landry ended up winning Miss USA.
That was 96.
Yep. And
So
that's how they met.
The reason I think I remember all of that stuff was my grandfather, my mom's dad, got me an autographed picture of Allie Landry when she had won Miss USA. And I was like 96. I was 14.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Suffice to say, I watched it like after that all the
Of course. Yeah. And what's really interesting is, so like, growing up, like I did, like I was saying earlier, I didn't do pageants, but I would watch them or whatever. And of course, all these young girls, fangirls of Allie Landry, right? So in like 2015, I actually got into the aesthetics industry and was doing skincare, makeup. I was working for a local plastic surgeon doing like lasers and all that kind of stuff. And I actually worked with Allie's sister.
Okay.
And we became good friends. And Allie came in one day to do a treatment. And I did the treatment on her. And I spent like 6 hours with her.
No way.
And so it was so cool to like, I had never met Allie.
And you had already competed.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean,
this was
y'all
like
were part of
a sisterhood.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say fraternity, but a sorority.
Yeah, exactly. And what's really neat is that we shared the same directors. So the women that were her directors in 96 are still the directors to this day of Miss Louisiana.
Oh, wow.
And so they were my directors as well. And when you become part of the organization's called RPM, but when you become part of the organization, you really are a part of it for life. And so we had that common, what we were talking about earlier, like the name game, that common bond. So that was really cool. It's like a full circle moment.
That was neat.
It's like doing a little facial on Allie Landry. Terrified that I was going to mess up her skin, but I didn't.
Nice.
Yeah. So
How long did you do aesthetics?
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually got into real estate fresh out of college, and did real estate for 3 years. Hopped out of it, had a change of heart. Sure. Hopped out of it. Went to aesthetics school in New Orleans, and then moved back to Lafayette to pursue a career in aesthetics. I worked in the plastic surgery industry for a little while, and then ventured out on my own and had like my own skincare company that I worked like out of a salon and ran that.
Okay.
Yep.
Like rented a chair type of thing.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah.
And hopping in, hopping out. I started early. I liked it.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready.
Same.
I'll see people that do what I do that are 22, 23, 24. And I'm like,
Good luck.
yeah, it's not. And I mean, I was smart, but you have to have some life experience.
You have to.
I wouldn't have wanted to hear that at the time.
Yep.
And someone probably told me that and I didn't listen.
Yep.
But then ultimately, like I figured it out.
Yep.
So,
Same.
yeah.
Yeah. I feel like when you hop into a career, I had so many people approach me after Miss Louisiana, not to like go work for them or anything, but just say like, you would be great in this role. You would be great in this role. And somebody told me that I would be good at real estate. And I kind of like reflected on that and was like, yeah, I think I would. Like, I like to talk to people, I like houses, like, the most like the reasons why you don't get into real estate. I thought you did, and I was like terrified. Like when you just get left to be eaten by the wolves, and you have to have some like thick, tough skin, and you're told no a lot, you're rejected a lot. And I was like this 22-year-old timid girl, and I wasn't ready.
Who hadn't bought a house before.
Who hadn't, yeah, like what? I wasn't ready for home ownership. I didn't know how to advise people on buying a home.
Sure.
And
what I tell people, what I was talking about earlier about how we got in, got out, was I couldn't talk the talk because I hadn't walked the walk.
Right. 100%.
At the end of the day.
It's true.
I just hadn't.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
Yeah. And I had to find that out the hard way a little bit, and I held on for a few years, but I was always like Googling, like, what else could I do? And it was never like I was confident enough to commit to that career. So then I got into aesthetics. I had a lot of like makeup practice and experience with pageants. So it kind of fit the bill.
It was in that realm.
It was. And I did a lot of like freelance work, did a lot of like photo shoot makeup and weddings and things like that. And And I really did love that. It's an art for people that don't know. I mean, makeup is an art. And I loved it. But whenever Butch and I got married, I knew that we would likely start having kids soon. And I was a homeowner at that point. And I was a little bit wiser. And
probably a lot more wise.
A lot more. And yeah, I got back into it in 2018. But I worked for Jim Cady on his staff. I wasn't like selling.
Gotcha.
And I didn't start selling until a few years ago. Selling again. And it's a totally different experience now.
It's definitely different.
Yeah.
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 What, how did you, like you had worked at a couple places. Ultimately you landed at Cady Real Estate.
Cady. Mm-hmm. So
what drew you to there?
So I saw the job posting for the lead coordinator role. This was back in 2018, right after we got married.
I think that's the first time you and I talked on the phone.
Yeah. I think it was like the lender program we were talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I saw the job posting. And of course, like I always knew about the culture that Cady has. I felt like I would fit in there. I didn't know that for sure. I knew a few agents there personally. Anyway, yeah, just started working there as an employee. And sure enough, I loved the culture. But I was also pregnant for Mary Frances. And I think I only worked on staff for a year and a half. And then I was like, okay, I want to be a stay-at-home mom. So I did that whole thing. And that's hard.
It is hard.
I wouldn't trade the time for anything that I had at home. It was also COVID. So,
Oh yeah.
Trapped.
No, you definitely made the right choice.
Yeah. And then, a few years ago, I was pretty confident in my mom role and I knew that I wanted to make money. And I'm like, let's go back.
That private school tuition, baby.
Oh, ain't cheap.
I went to get some Chinese food yesterday and I had a fortune cookie and it made me, I kept it because obviously I knew you were coming today. We had had a great lunch a couple months back and we talked a lot about just turning those chapters to get into the next one of life.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm in a different one than you.
Yeah.
But I went through yours.
Yeah.
You're just coming out of another one. You're turning the page again.
Right.
And we talked about the way you move, the way you talk, being confident, being insecure, a lot of things that a lot of people, I usually find now, especially being in my mid 40s, like if someone is not, I don't want to say honest, but just real, I tend to gel a lot better with people who are just like, you say real talk, like just why beat around the bush or why
shoot me straight.
Why do the facade? I mean, we all know like not everything is easy and sunshine and rainbows and stuff. But anyway, I got this last night and I kept it and it says, don't let others define your success. I don't know. It made me think about some of the things we had talked about when we had lunch. But this is super important for us. It's super important to teach this to our kids.
100%.
I mean, you can make t-shirts.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think there are t-shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I feel like so it's been 12 years since I had this title, I guess you could call it. And there's a lot of people that I don't know if maybe they're just uneducated on the whole process of being, whether it's Miss Louisiana USA or Miss Texas or Miss Lafayette or Miss, these festival pageant queens that have titles. There's a lot of like stigma there. And there's a lot of people that just are so lost. They have no idea what these girls are going through and the pressure
it's a lot
that society puts on these girls.
Well, they don't show it.
They don't show it.
They want you to see the show.
Yes.
They don't show you the part that gets them to the show.
Yes. And that was a huge struggle for me as having that name, that title. I don't, the word title and the word queen like grosses me out, honestly. Cause I'm like, it just seems like
the accolade, perhaps.
the accolade. That's a good way to put it. But that was hard for me because I am so, I don't want to say that I'm real, but like I'm very truthful. What you see is what you get. And I almost had to put on this like very polished facade in a sense because I had to stay neutral.
Sure. So you had two
hard.
at times.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, I think the big thing, we have children and I have struggles as a father, struggles as a husband, struggles as a wife, all that stuff. I think that the big thing that people would get out of just kind of observing or watching and listening to this interview is, I mean, you have all women have that same struggle as parents.
Yeah.
Someone's always judging how you do what you do. I didn't do it like that. You're not doing this enough. Why did you do?
Yeah.
And then now there's so much stuff on the internet.
Oh, yes.
So
many outside opinions.
There are. I mean, it's good because you can catch a lot of like good ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I watched a video, a reel the other day about how to cook an omelet. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah.
Right. But when you go and you take in all that stuff, you probably do the thing too, where you start comparing yourself. So there's an internal thing where you're like, well, I don't know if I'm, and then you have all the outside stuff that comes in when you don't want it to come in.
Yeah.
So
I can relate that to momhood for sure. There's a very heavy presence these days on motherhood. And there's this battle between stay-at-home moms and working moms. And it's like, which is better? And the reality is that they're both effing hard. And we're all doing the best we can. Why are we like this? Why are we fighting about it? Why can't we come together and just there's so many opinions about how we should be raising our kids, and being a working mom, you should be breaking glass ceilings and, working so much that you should be able to pay for a nanny. And then the flip side of that is the stay-at-home mom. And then you have those moms. I know I was one when I was staying at home. I was like, my identity is mom and that's it. And when reality is in return, I shouldn't say in reality, in return, the most important goal and job for me is being a mom, because I am responsible for how these little humans are going to, how they're going to come out in the real world and be prepared for the real world. And I just feel like there's this presence of just negativity that's just circling about momhood and what's right and what's wrong. And I'm like, why does it matter? As long as you're doing what you feel like is best for your family, who cares what your neighbor thinks? Yeah. But there's just this pressure. And
you think it's females amongst females?
I think it's the internet. Yeah. I mean, I think it's females getting put against each other for sure. But there's just this emphasis on the internet and the internet's great and hilarious. I mean, there's so many nights where my husband and I are just we haven't talked in 2 hours, but we're in bed together laughing hysterically over the reels that we're sending to each other. I mean,
wait, you do that too?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's
we don't even show each other the phones. I just text him.
Yeah.
And she's like, did you see the ones I sent you? And I was like, well, no, you didn't text them to me. She said, well, no, I DM'd you. And I'm like, I don't do DMs. What are you talking about?
I mean, Butch probably has 30 DMs of my reels that I send him.
But we're right next to each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're the bed is shaking because we're laughing so hard.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Y'all can be, y'all are besties now.
Yeah. So the internet's gold in that regard, right? But then there's just these negative, dark clouds about being a mom and what's a good mom. And I just feel like you just have to figure that out for your own family, You
do. And I mean, it depends.
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys who would be super happy, if there was a second income, and there's some who were like, it's more important. And then there's always the balance,
Yeah.
right? And it's the stuff on the bell curve, right?
Yeah.
The outlying 10%,
Yeah.
the 80% in the middle. You just
Yeah.
got to figure out, and no
Yeah.
one can tell you because
Yeah.
only you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly. And I feel like
and some days you're going to feel great about it.
Yeah.
And some days you won't.
Some days there's a lot of mom guilt. But I also think it's important that my kids see that I'm working hard, you know?
Again.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a balance. I want them to see mom like crushing goals, but I want them to see mom also picking them up, dropping them off, picking them up every day and taking them to all their things and
Always the rock.
always there. Yeah.
Have you ever seen that you talk about mom guilt? Have you ever seen the I would say it's a meme. It's a little like comic little cartoon with a story about a little boy trying to give his dad $100.
No,
You ever seen that one?
I don't think so. I'll get you.
Dude. So I'll paraphrase, but basically the dad is the breadwinner of the house. He works all the time. Little boy comes up to dad and says, "Daddy, I want to go play." And he's like, "Hey, I can't, I'm busy." It fast forwards to the next frame. It comes, he does the same thing. He's like, "Dad, I want to go ride bikes." And he's like, "Hey, I'm busy." And then the third time the little boy comes back and he says, "Dad, I want to whatever." He was like, "I'm busy." He said, "Hey, Dad, before I go, I know you're busy. How much do you make an hour for work?" And he said, "Well, that's kind of personal." He's like, "Yeah, but I want to be like you when I grow up. So in order to know, like, to be like you, I need to figure out what to do so I can make as much money as you. How much do you make an hour?" And he said, "I make $100 an hour." And then it goes to the next frame, and little boy comes and taps the daddy on the back, and he has $100 bill. And the dad said, "What's that for?" And he said, "Well, I want to pay you for an hour of your time. I want you to play with me." Dude, like, yeah. I mean, so it's a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some days you feel like shit, and some days you feel like you're crushing it, and you can do no wrong. And,
So confusing.
but you just got to be okay with, because I mean that's life, right? And sometimes life does like this.
Yeah.
I mean,
And especially like in our industry, you know, there are some months that are like freaking fantastic, right? And then there's some months that are really slow.
Yep.
And when you have that streak of motivation because you see the money coming in, it's hard to say no to work. And, you know, I feel like that's my struggle is like, it's also hard, you know, working from home while being a mom at home, like, and getting anything done, especially when you have a 3-year-old that just wants snacks all the time, you know, and they don't understand that I'm working. To them, it just looks like I'm not paying attention to them. And I know that to my core, and I just have a really hard time. Some, you know, a lot of times, not taking it out on them, or you know, whatever frustrations I'm dealing with at work. Like, I need to be better at not letting that translate into my home life. You know, easy. And it's a never ending battle, and I guess you just kind of you just figure it out.
You got to battle every day.
Yeah.
When you're sleeping regularly with the baby, are you an early riser?
So I would say that I wasn't before kids.
I would agree with that. Same. But now, yes, and I love waking up early. Okay.
I don't get me wrong, I love to sleep in too. Like when Butch lets me sleep in on the weekends, sometimes I'm like, yes, I needed that extra hour, right? But I feel most motivated when I am up with the sun and I'm ready for the day, and I have everything taken care of by like 9:30 in the morning. Like I see there's so much life to be had during the day. So like, why sleep? Why sleep through those times, you know? There's so much to be done.
Yeah.
And I've got in my head, I feel like I've got big goals to accomplish during the day.
Well, you do. You're raising humans.
Yeah.
At a foundational level.
Yeah. But prior to kids, oh my gosh, I could sleep.
So you wake up at like 7 o'clock?
Yeah.
5:30?
No, I'm not 5:30 at my house.
Yeah. I do the 4:35.
That's
and
early.
then try to knock out a couple hours before they wake up.
Oh yeah.
But that's how I started to be able to kind of manage the balance. Even if it was still out of whack, it was less out of whack. Do the hard things in the morning, do a lot of the tasks where I would get too distracted and it didn't require a phone call, like at an obscenely early time.
Right.
Those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So if you find that you can't quite maneuver the scale a little bit, I would recommend
that. That's what I hear
hour and a half early. Yeah.
Uninterrupted time. Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
Lindsay, when Lindsay was on, she talked, she said, honey, do you remember what she said? She's like, I'm maniacal about my mornings. I feel like she said it was another M word. Like it has to be that way. Otherwise everything is off kilter for the rest of the day. But she also, it probably wasn't easy at first, but then she got in a groove and now there was like no turning back for her.
And I hear that. And like I have.
But she also doesn't have a 10-month-old.
Yeah. And like, that is doable if he's only getting me up like once a night. And if it's before the hours of like 3 a.m. If he's getting me up at 5 a.m., I'm going back to sleep until 7. I really am. Most people would be like, well, why don't you just get up for the day? It's 5 a.m., like the day's starting. And I'm like, well, if I could just have that little nap.
It makes a difference.
It makes a difference. But soon enough, I think he'll be sleeping like 100% through the night. And maybe I'll like get back in my fitness game, go work out maybe before they wake up. So that used to be a very important part of my life.
Yeah.
And that's just on the back burner right now.
Where'd you work out at?
Well, I actually worked at Red's throughout college. And so always worked out
Well,
at
that made
Red's.
it easy.
Oh, so easy. And then Mr. Red actually gave me like a free membership when I was Miss Louisiana. So
Come on.
he sponsored me, I guess you could call it. I worked out there. I dabbled in the Orange Theory fitness thing for a while. I like the circuit training type workouts, the high intensity stuff. So that was my jam. And then got a little lazy, honestly, when I started having kids, and I'm a little tired.
You also ran out of a lot of time.
Yeah. So I feel like nowadays you just have to be more intentional with your time, and your time is divided up by a lot of different things: work, husband, kids, working out.
When you came in, I was very excited at your reaction to seeing all the stuff. We worked really hard to kind of put all this together. You mentioned that you are a big fan of podcasts.
I am.
Do you only listen, or do you watch them and listen to them on YouTube? Like, what do you typically do?
So for a while, I was only listening to them, and that's how I would fall asleep at night.
Okay.
But when I am like listening, it's usually just clips that I'm seeing like on social media, on Instagram. I rarely will look on YouTube and watch a whole segment. So usually just, AirPods in and I'm falling asleep to them. Or like if I'm walking the baby in the stroller around the neighborhood, that's how I'm listening to them. But it's actually how I kind of got into the whole realm of natural. I'm big into like natural birth. And we have our babies at home in our bedroom. Like that's how I deliver babies.
No way.
And that's a whole nother.
I forgot you told me that.
It's a whole nother rabbit hole.
It's a midwife or a doula?
Both, yeah. I have a midwife and a doula.
So that's two separate things.
Correct.
Okay.
Your midwife is your provider. That's who's delivering your baby. And your doula, you could think of your doula as your birth coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she preps you, and then the midwife comes in and.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But so anyway, podcasts played a huge role into the mental preparation of being able to deliver unmedicated, not in a hospital setting.
No epidural.
No. Damn. Just the way the baby comes. Yeah. So you really have to get into like the right mind frame about it. And
did they all hurt the same, or the last one was the easiest?
Oh no, he was the hardest. He was my biggest baby. He was 8.5 pounds, and I pushed for 4 hours. Not to go into all these details, but it was rough. But it all worked out.
You made it through.
Yeah. Juliet was pretty easy. She was a small baby. I say pretty easy. I mean, it's no easy feat at all. It's not easy at all. There's a lot of cursing. After Juliet was born. So my first child I had in the hospital, Mary Frances. And then I kind of went down had this great awakening, I guess you could call it, in 2019. Not going into that, but I had a great awakening, learned all about the intention of childbirth and the way we are created. And I was fascinated by it. And
I'm sure a lot of people would be fascinated by it, but there's just like the way, which is to go to the hospital.
Right. Well, that's the way we've been conditioned. Anyway.
Sure.
So I did a lot of educating during COVID when I was home a lot, not going anywhere. I was pregnant for my second child, and I just dove in to the research. And luckily, I have a very open-minded husband, and he was like, sure, no, don't know what to expect. After Juliet was born, he told me, he was like, if we do this again, I'm going to need drugs.
For himself?
For himself. And I said, you're never allowed to say that to a birthing woman, unmedicated birthing woman, that you need the drugs. No, but he just gets nervous and he sees me in all this agonizing pain, and it's hard for him.
Listen, we're protectors.
Yeah.
And we're ultimately, I mean, moms run the house, but we're responsible for the house.
Yeah.
So it's
true.
That's a natural reaction.
Yeah. So anyway, he got through it twice now, 2 home birthers. But yeah, podcasts played a huge role into like being able to fully be present and learn what our bodies can do.
So what are you listening to now, or what do you listen to now semi-regularly?
Right now I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan. I listen to Heather McMahon. She's a female comedian that's hilarious. Okay. It depends on my mood, depends on what I'm into at that given time. A lot of natural health podcasts. That's just kind of like what I'm into. So
it's like having different, the podcasts are almost like hobbies.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to do self-improvement stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to do going down the wormhole stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's industry related stuff.
Yeah.
Like mastermind type things, which I do a lot.
Yeah.
I'll typically listen to those when I'm driving.
Yeah.
Because I can pick up a lot.
Yeah.
I'd set them out regular, like 80s playlist.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of some other stuff. Real big into tech stuff. So like this was all YouTube channels. I would say more channels, more so than podcasts. But yeah, it's just, it's no different than a playlist that you listen to music.
Yeah. I much prefer a podcast though, because I don't know. It's
how you wake up. It's what your mood is.
Yeah,
Yesterday we got in the car. I had a song come on. My kid wanted to change it. I'm like, no, I'm good right here. And then the next day I didn't want to listen to it at all. I wanted to listen to something else.
Right. It's your mood, depending on your mood. I just like to learn, and I like to hear how other people are figuring things out. It might help me do something, later down the road.
There's a lot of that. I noticed, I would say probably from the time I was 26 to 40. I mean, a solid decade and a half. Full on learn mode.
Yeah.
It's weird. Went to school, went to college. Yeah. Had good supportive parents, families,
yeah.
Like there's so much stuff that you just don't know.
Yeah.
And especially like that you don't get taught.
Yeah.
Whether through a mission or just not knowing because they didn't go through it. And then obviously the schools want you to learn certain things that don't necessarily,
help you as a human.
A lot. Yeah. Like a lot of things were figured out a long time ago.
Yeah.
Kind of find out like late 1800s to the 1950s, and then things just changed.
Yeah.
Like I remember watching one time, just as a crazy example, was like breakfast used to not be a thing.
Oh.
It was just like you would just wake up and eat.
And it wasn't breakfast food. It was just whatever.
Yeah. So
anything.
Like if somebody has an egg sandwich, most people now would be like, I'm not gonna eat that for supper. That's a breakfast food.
Yeah.
Like that used to not be a thing.
I gotcha. Interesting.
The food industry.
That makes sense. Oh, that's
like
a whole
cereal, like all this stuff.
Yeah. I won't get into my big food opinions, but I have a lot of those.
You should. There's some lately I've been seeing it'll come up every once in a while because I'll check out that stuff also. They'll show labels of
the UK and us.
Yeah. Which is crazy. It's got like a third of the ingredients and you can pronounce all of them.
How dare they color their food with real food?
Right. Right.
How dare them?
Stuff like that. No,
And then we have a population of how much ADHD, you know, and you wonder where that comes from. It's probably in the food.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that there in my head.
You did natural birth. I mean, it seems like a natural progression.
Yeah. And look, it's so funny how, like, I think another one of your, like, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would that be? Like, I don't know what that exact advice is, but it's almost like I would tell her, like, just hold on, because it's a wild ride. Like, and you're not going to be the same person in 10 years, I can promise you. And then especially if this is me talking to her, then, like, if you become a mom, you will go to bat for those children and fight for them and be their biggest advocate.
So how do you feel about not being that same person anymore?
I mean, 18-year-old Erin was clueless, completely selfish, but, like, what 18-year-old isn't, kind of, you know? Like, you could, because their entire 18 years, they've only had to live for themselves.
That's right.
So it's not until life experience gets thrown at you and growth happens that, like, you realize it's not about you. And that's kind of like going back into pageantry. There's been so many wonderful things that have come out of that for me, but it's something that I'm not interested in creating for my kids until they have a level head on their shoulders and know who they are and know their worth, because it's a mean world. And there's so many, with a pageant, it's all about the self, and, like, life isn't about the self.
Don't let others define your success. Yeah. You could modify that too and say, don't let others define who you are.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you have them have a good sense of self
100%.
Before they get into that realm.
Before they're exposed.
So that can be like a foundational principle to fall back on.
Same with, like, I don't know how hard it's going to be, probably very hard, but, like, we're not going to give our kids cell phones. I mean, I say that. It's probably going to be really hard, but until I see that they can handle the world, it's scary out there.
It'll be a minute.
Yeah, I know. I've got time.
But the parental controls on iPhone are pretty stout.
Yeah, are they?
Yeah. Yeah. Matter of fact, Chase was fussing at me today.
Ask him how he knows.
Yeah. Like, apparently I turned on more than I had before.
Oh.
And he was just like, his head exploded. He was like, I don't understand. I'm like, well, I must have pressed a button.
Yeah.
I didn't actually do it on purpose, but I'm just like I had planned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think girls, it's a little different raising girls. And now I have a little boy, so I'll quickly learn. But,
oh, yeah.
I want to sort of, it's so hard because it's like you want to keep your daughters in a bubble, but then you also want them to be strong, independent, courageous, and confident women someday. So how do you do that, but still preserve their innocence? And still, how do you teach them the beauty of the world when there's so much ugly? And I didn't know that as an 18-year-old. I only saw, like, my 18-year-old self in my 18-year-old world.
I think that's all of us.
Yeah.
I thought I was pretty smart when I was 22 getting out of college.
Yeah.
I didn't know shit.
No. But how could you with what we're taught? I mean, you're not taught how to
lived
live.
experiences.
Yeah.
I never had to be responsible for anyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why, I mean, look, if you're not a homeowner and you're a realtor and you're doing great job, but go buy you a house, have something to show.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to someone yesterday about, they were asking how things were going. I said, well, I had a good month, really good month. And I told her, look, I see some younger people that do what I do that also haven't been doing it for a long time. And I'm just like, look, even when I was 2 years in my late 30s, mid 30s, looking back, I can have the luxury of saying this now because it's fast forward 8-9 years. it was still a lot that I didn't know at that time. So it's definitely lean in on being where you are. You had to go through everything to get
Right.
here, and it happened for a reason.
Right.
Kind of like how when you Miss Lafayette, like you said, it was kind of a stepping stone.
It was the fuel I needed.
Yeah. I noticed on Facebook not too long ago, last couple of months, I don't know, can't recall if it was before or after we had lunch. Your husband recently won or was honored or recognized for something that seemed to be pretty neat. Was it 40 under 40?
The 20 under 40.
20 under 40.
20 under 40.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the 705's big award ceremony every year. He was, in my opinion, I feel like he should have gotten this award much sooner, but he made it just in time because he's turning 40 in August.
Oh, yeah?
But yeah, he was named Lafayette's or Acadiana's 20 under 40. He was nominated basically for his nonprofit that he runs, the 24-Hour Citizen Project.
I'm unfamiliar with that. What is that?
Yeah. So I'm sure you're familiar with like Shark Tank, the show Shark Tank, with like the investors and all that. So it is that type of, that's like the platform. So it's a Shark Tank event, but for community-based ideas. So basically you have a great idea that you think Lafayette could benefit from. You can apply. And then if you get accepted, he's got a whole vetting process. If you get accepted, there's like 7 or 8 projects that get accepted every year. You then get trained essentially on how to pitch your idea to a panel of backers. And these are like community investors in Lafayette that are on this panel. And it's called the 24-Hour Citizen Project. So you basically pitch your idea, and they end up funding several of the 7 or 8 projects that are presented. They end up funding X amount of dollars every year to make sure that these projects happen. So like, I'm trying to think of some that you would be familiar with that have been funded, like the downtown Lafayette letters in Park San Souci with the missing Y. Yeah. That was like one of the projects. That was a very early project. Crew de Canaille, the walking parade for Mardi Gras.
I think I've heard of it. I haven't been to it.
Okay, super fun. Y'all should go. The kids would love it. That was funded. And
that's funded annually now.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was funded to get started, and now they've taken it on themselves, and it comes back year after year. It's a whole success thing. Really cool, really fun. Some others like just anything from like a food pantry in some areas of food deserts where people don't have access to good food. Community gardens where people can go and get herbs or vegetables in their neighborhood. Drinking water fountains. There was a project that was funded by a runner in town who was like, man, I have the same loop that I run every single day, and there's nowhere for me to stop to get water. And so he worked with UL's architectural program, and they created these awesome looking water fountains, and they're placed strategically, along running routes in town. All kinds of stuff. Really, I would be lying if I said I knew the number of how much money that they've raised over the last 6 years or 7 years.
And you mentioned it was private backing, so these are community folks who have some money to invest in the community outside of government.
Yep, exactly.
Nice.
So, local banks, just businesses, entities in town that care about the community, and it can be just anybody that has a great idea.
And make sure their dollars travel far, and they get all of it out, making sure it goes exactly to what it's for.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Nice.
So,
How did he get involved with that?
He had a vision. It was.
He founded it?
Yeah. He's the founder, and it's his idea. This is kind of me like trying to articulate his vision, but it's something along the lines of like one day, this was years ago, back in 2010 or maybe 2011. So he's a clinical researcher for work. So he designs and manages clinical trials for drug companies. And And, it's very like behind a computer all day, like not talking, not out in the community, just very like scientific, kind of boring. And he was like, man, I live in Lafayette, but I feel so disconnected from Lafayette in my career. Like what could I do that gets me connected to the people and the reason why I live here? And it just kind of became this like grassroots project over time, and it's evolved. It was originally supposed to be a 48-hour event, and now it's condensed into 24 hours. There's things that he's tweaked over the years, but it's become a big deal now. And so he was
Hence the 24-hour.
You have a 24-hour time period from the time that the teams show up to present their idea to the time that they are funded. It's a 24-hour span. And it's a public event. It's open to anybody for free. It's usually held at ACA every year, I think usually in November. It's a really cool event. Y'all should check it out. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, well, bring some awareness to it. I wasn't aware of it until now.
You can follow the page. Like they have a Facebook page and an Instagram account. And they're always like, it's going into kickoff season. So they're going to be starting their, I think weekly during the summer, they do like weekly events to try to get people talking and engaging about some ideas that they think could benefit our community.
And it's all at one time, or do they have like tryouts ahead of time to maybe they get 100 ideas and then the top 20 present before they bring the backers in?
So let's just say, this is just like arbitrary numbers, but like, let's just say 100 people apply. There's an application process. I think like applications are due by the last day of August. Okay. And then like the committee goes through every single, and it's a whole vetting process, and they narrow it down. And then I'm trying to explain too much without knowing the full details, because I've been mom at home while he does this.
Sure.
But I'm pretty sure they have like an interview process to some degree, to get accepted.
To get to the end.
Yeah. So.
Man, that's neat.
But it's cool. It's a lot of fun. Y'all should check it out.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. Well, Erin, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
I hope to be seeing more of you soon. I'm definitely going to go follow the organization's page.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really good for the community.
Yeah.
Direct dollars right away.
Exactly.
For the things that people want.
Yeah. Seeing change. You can be the change, literally. So.
I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Derek.